derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning. Theo asks, where is Seth? Half asleep. That's where he is. Half asleep. Well, let's see here. We did get numbers right. We got core PCE price index month over month coming in line with expectations. A little bit of some positive action in the treasuries, but they are already coming back. Man, I'm really late today. I'm sorry. Let's come to the charts. Look at that. Yesterday was a good day. So, again, when we come to these ATR stops, you often tend to get some mean reversion. And we actually pointed that out really well on the day when we were like there. But yesterday they broke through in a pretty meaningful way. I know we're still only at 112 and some of these moves are kind of like meh. Like when you come and you look at the ATR, well, it's still pretty high because of this spike, but I think if you took this spike out, you'd find that the ATR, because look, we're already getting to some ATR lows. So yeah, the volatility in the market is getting a little bit sad, and it is summer, so that's kind of part of our difficulties, right? But here you can see on the volume profiles and everything, it just the trend is looking really good, especially this past week. It's been just an amazing. Okay, so here's the treasuries, or sorry, here's the S&P 500 also looking pretty good and up overnight. Oil just kind of going sideways, which I guess is good. I still think that they're gonna go lower, but gold coming down this morning. Ouch. Silver, not as bad, but still ouch. Kappa coming back. So the metal's coming back in a big way. The dollar looking weak again, 96.62. But at least the Japanese yen is stabilized. There was some inflation information and everything last night, so. Bitcoin, hanging out around 108. So that's where we're at. And let's see here. Do we get... Yep, we get University of Michigan sentiment numbers. Our favorite report to argue about. So we'll see where that takes us. I really need to work harder to be here on time for the 6:30 news, even though I don't know if we can really trade these, but yeah. But on the lack of volatility in the coins, are you talking about like altcoins in the cryptocurrency market? It's always kind of, yeah, Bitcoin. It's because always kind of a little weird to me when people come into a Treasuries stream and they use slang that, like, how am I supposed to know what you're talking about? So Bitcoin, what's happening in Bitcoin is that the public has completely lost interest in it. Donald Trump has been pumping it hard, and Bitcoin has been doing well because the administration has decided to become so friendly to cryptocurrency. And that seems largely a favor that he was paying to his Silicon Valley friends. But the reality is that the public has lost interest in it. You go and you look at like searches for Bitcoin, the public's just not interested. And every time that there's a big drop in the price of Bitcoin, all of a sudden a ton of money gets printed over at Tether. Money supposedly gets put into the system and we magically flow back up. So I maintain that Bitcoin is basically all fake at this point. So it's being pumped up by by debt from Michael Saylor, and what is essentially debt being printed over at Tether. There's not genuine interest in it from the public. And that is why you don't see a whole lot of volatility in Bitcoin anymore. It's not like, I mean, it can still move. It can still move, but the volatility isn't as high as it was, right? Well, I think that the Bitcoin community thinks of volatility as like a measure of how mature a system is. Like Treasuries, they don't have a lot of volatility because they're super established. But really, it's a question of the amount of transactions that are actually being done in that market compared to the amount of liquidity that's available. And if all of a sudden you have a ton of people who really want to get involved in that market and you don't change anything about the liquidity that's available, that's when you get high volatility. And what is happening in Bitcoin is not as many people want to do stuff in it. So the volatility has gone down. So long-term play, probably I think you make money from it going long. I don't know if you'll make as much money on it as you have in the past, but as long as the U.S. administration is favorable to it, and nobody's going to stop Tether and Michael Saylor from doing what they're doing, I think that it continues to go up, and you probably will make money from it. Let's say that we are moving fairly okay here in the treasuries after the PCE news. Bigger players propping up and keeping up with the Joneses per se, keeping it tame in the meantime. I think long-term strategy would be net short stable coins. Well, so why would you go net short stable coins? Because I mean, the whole point of a stable coin is that it's supposed to stay stable. So like, I don't know. I do think that this stable coin bill in the House and Senate is going to get through. It seems very likely it's going to get through. And it's not all good things for the cryptocurrency community, by the way. I think that the cryptocurrency community has kind of started to take this or has been trained to think anything that the government is doing is a further legitimization of Bitcoin, which is therefore good for Bitcoin. But if Bitcoin is being completely held up by debt and you take away that ability for them to issue debt and buy Bitcoin with it, it's really, really bad for Bitcoin, right? Stablecoins are money market mutual funds with little to no oversight. Change my mind. Why would you call it a mutual fund? I mean, they don't invest in stocks. They don't invest in anything, really. Well, I don't know. I guess the guys over at Tether probably are like buying Bitcoin and other coins with it. But what they're doing with like investing in like this is the thing that's crazy about it is that okay, so if you think about it in terms of a mutual fund, okay, you go and you put your money in the mutual fund based on, and the price that you're getting is based on like the net asset value of that fund, and they give you shares in it. And then they go in and they invest that money that you gave them into all of the various companies that they're investing in. And then those companies are worth more. And then that increases the total net asset value. And then you can sell it and you make money off of it, right? A stable coin, you buy the stable coin and now you have that currency in the stable coin. And they go and they take that money that the dollars that you just gave them, and they go and they invest it into a bunch of different things, including in Bitcoin itself. And Bitcoin goes up, and it doesn't change the net asset value of the stable coin. The stable coin is still just worth whatever the exchange rate is. It's just worth a coin per dollar or whatever it is. And the people that run the fund make all of the money off of it. That's crazy. Okay, when you think about it from that perspective, that's crazy. You're literally just letting people borrow money from you for free to go and invest and make money off of it. And then you sit here and you go, well, wait, like that's like a free lunch. How is the why is not anybody else doing this? Well, because if you go to the bank and you put $1 in, right, there's limits on what they can do with that dollar. So what really is a stable coin? Stable coin is actually a unregulated wildcat bank. It's an unregulated wildcat bank. They do whatever they want with the money because regulators aren't looking into it. Nobody is able to like fully audit Tether and everything. The scam just continues. But it's a wildcat bank. Stable coins don't generate income. There's not like some yield that you're supposed to get with stable coins. It's you go and you give $1 for a stable coin, and then you're supposed to be able to get the dollar back out later. Supposed to. Apparently Tether doesn't actually have to respect that redemption, but someday one of these big hedge funds, because my understanding of what's happening is that it's not just like, oh, okay, Bitcoin is falling, we don't like that, I'm just going to go and print a bunch of money, and then they go out and they buy things with it, right? Who's going to do the buying? They don't know how to do that. What actually happens is there's these different funds out there, and the fund says, oh, I want to go and buy Bitcoin. And they say, oh, okay, well, we'll get you into the Bitcoin ecosystem. And as a kind of like an extra little incentive or whatever for you, we'll let you borrow like 2 to 1. So you give us $500 million, and we'll print $1 billion. And from what I can tell, like the loans are getting more and more ridiculous as time goes on. So it functions like a money market mutual fund with no oversight or regulation and doesn't generate yield. Use them as a carry trade? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. Like if you had those connections, yeah, you come into Bitcoin, you're allowed to borrow insane amounts of money, make money on the investments from the thing, and then hedge the coin itself. Yeah. So like the thing is like, okay, probably the best example that I can remember for this was like the Swiss franc. Like there was a time when the Swiss franc was under pressure, and so they pinned the Swiss franc to the dollars. They said, we will give you this many Swiss francs for dollars, no questions asked, and pinned it. And that created like an outright floor on the price, right? And then at that point, like what is even the point of trading it? Because you know that there's going to be an explicit redemption. Looks like they've settled at 29.5. Oh man, Big Balls quits. 19-year-old Musk protege leaves U.S. government post. I kind of think that they're overstating their relationship when they call him Musk protege. It's a guy that they hired for Doge. Okay. That's actually crazy, though. Why would you buy a stable coin in exchange for nothing? Good question. So if I want to go and buy $1 billion in Bitcoin, how am I going to do it? Well, I guess in the United States, you can go to Coinbase and they can make some sort of a deal with you where you give them the money and they go and they buy it for you and all of these things. But like, why do that if you can go to Tether and you can get 2-to-1 leverage, right? And if you go and you do it in Tether, you can take that Tether and you can go and you can put it anywhere. You don't have to worry about the know your customer requirements and all of this other nonsense. I can go and I can put it into anything. So as an example, a lot of the money from Tether goes into a coin called Tron. And Tron is used on a lot of Iranian exchanges. So Iran is straight up using Tether to gain access to markets outside of regulations. So, the long and short of it is, why would you use it? So that you can get around regulations. They came in, they implemented all of these regulations around trading with the dollar. Most exchanges were not willing to keep themselves in line with those regulations. So instead of trading dollars, they trade the stablecoin. It's really kind of wild to think about what that's like. Okay, so that's the future of money. that's the future of money. I don't really have very high hopes for the future. You know? Well, now, a stable coin in and of itself, I guess, could be a little interesting, because a stable coin at that point becomes, still gives you the main interesting thing of cryptocurrencies, which is it gives you the ability to make transactions on a decentralized ledger for basically for free. So you can go and you can make a stable coin, and there's all of these different parameters and everything that you can pick to make it look like that, for it to act the way that you want. But we could make a stable coin that you know, it verifies very, very quickly. So you don't have to wait 10 minutes. It's just instant. You make the transaction, it's instant, you know where the money is. So, stablecoin, again, stablecoin is a wildcat bank. This bill with stablecoins could take us to a place at some point where, like, I mean, good grief, what happens when Visa and MasterCard decide to make their own stablecoins? And maybe there is a point in the future where everybody just uses a particular stablecoin to do their transactions instead of the card system that we have today. Yeah. But Bitcoin can't use Bitcoin for transactions. It's just weird. What brand of OLED did you get? I have an LG. So what happened was I went in and I was totally planning on getting a Samsung, but I wasn't planning on getting a TV yet. I was just like looking around, and they had like a really good sell on an OLED that was like the previous generation. So it was only like a year old. But, and it was like their last unit. So I got the super deal. And that's why I ended up doing it. Why do I always get, so they will make one peg to everything, but it will just be a digitized version of paper, like with futures. Think of it as debt with first secured lien holders going down to common holders. Well, so why is it when we start talking about these things that we always try and make these more complicated comparisons than is necessary? Like, so now we're thinking about what happens when the stable coin goes under, and who does the debt go to first? Well, because the whole thing is that if they're really doing what they say with the stablecoin, then there's literally no way that the stablecoin can possibly go under. Well, we know that that's not what's happening, right? So this kind of back and forth between 28 and 30 is kind of a little interesting. You see it? Whoop, whoop, whoop. I've never really seen the 10-year treasury do that before. Why are you asking me about what brand of oat? That was like 3 days ago. You still remember that? Wow, from r/financial careers, 2.5 years still applying, not even a single interview. You're doing something wrong, man, if you've not even gotten an interview. Let's see here. Well, he has basically 2 jobs. Why is this one on the top? The experience go back to... That doesn't make sense. March 2023 to October 2024. But then this one is June 2023. So you did a second job halfway through? Well, maybe that's why. Maybe he was, what do they call it? Job maxing? Maybe that's why, because they see that you did that. If that's your resume, I would probably reject it too. It has... Wait, what was the GPAs on it? Didn't even look at that. Oh. GPA 2.8. Oh. Yeah, don't put that on your resume. Yeah, bro, your resume sucks. Huh. Man, a lot of so yesterday PewDiePie put this video out that is basically like how to de-Googlefy your life. And a lot of people on Reddit are interested in that video. I'm seeing it get brought out everywhere. It's running around in circles now. Man, this morning when I woke up, I was like, it was hard to wake up. I think that part of it was I was a little dehydrated. Like when I went to the bathroom, it was more yellow than normal. So, but man, it's just was hard to wake up, and I think it's because the night before was like a really, really rough night. I did some extra walking on the treadmill to try, because that figured that would help me sleep. It just did not. And so I'm kind of in this mode of, I don't think that I should get myself too involved in the market today, because I know that I would do something stupid. It's running around in circles 4 hours now. Tell me how that's supposed to replace anyone. So I wrote a script yesterday, not yesterday, the day before yesterday, that was just doing some simple kind of like Git comparison sort of things in Python. And it was like, well, I'm waiting on this other thing, so I'm just going to get into that. And I got really engrossed in it, and I finished it. I got it working to the level that I wanted. And by the time I was happy with it, I think that I had spent 3 or 4 hours on it. And I was going back and forth with an AI, but I was just kind of like, you know, if I was just doing this on my own or all of the problems I was encountering, I was searching on Google for it, probably would have taken me about the same amount of time. So I'm still, even though I have all of these CEOs are like, well, 30 to 40% of our work now is being done by AI and it's automated and all these sorts of things. And I'm still like, I'm using the AI. I find it useful, but it is not making things faster. Not in the least bit. In many cases, it just makes it way, way longer because it sends you down these rabbit holes that are dumb. It'll just give you like a super confident answer, and then you're not aware of the other possible branches of investigation there that might have been more effective. Your prompt is wrong. What is this prompt? His prompts are kind of bad. But you know what? Like, I don't use it this way. I very, very rarely say, let's build this. What I'll do is I'll say, okay, here's what I'm doing. What are maybe some different ways of doing this? And it will give me some different options. And then I'll argue with it. Be like, well, no, this is dumb. This is wrong. I establish all of the things and get it to the point where it's like, oh, okay, no, you're totally right. You should do it this way. And then I say, okay, do that. And then it usually gives me pretty good code. And then I just have to go through the errors. Oh, it gives me this one. It goes, oh, okay, I was wrong about this. I was wrong about that. I don't know. Some of this also, like this one right here. It's like, well, okay, if you know the answer, then why don't you just write it up and test it instead of asking the AI to do it? From r/Florida. What is it? This is happening in Florida right now. What is it? That, my friend, is a tornado. It looks like a tornado to me. Yep, it was a tornado. You're in a Florida snow globe. Oh, man. Kind of looks like. Well, there was one iceberg there at 28.5. Wondering if maybe there is some business going on here, but that they've really decided it's just they're gonna be stuck. You know what? I should enable this. For some reason, yesterday it didn't take any trades. Past 2 days, it doesn't take any trades.
Order submitted.
Oh. Oh, that is correct. That is correct. Huh. Really got a good one too. What is this about? It was a pretty big sell that came through there. Now, oh wait, so I don't have my news squawk on. That might help. Did I miss a headline? Because that kind of looks like maybe headline. Republicans are on the cusp of a SALT deal per multiple sources with knowledge of talks. Oh, that could maybe do it, actually. With the amount that we moved down and the amount of volume that we've seen, there are traders that are trading on the bill. I think that what is likely to happen is they'll pass the bill. There will probably be like a short-term reaction from the treasury markets, and then like after a week or two, they forget about it. But I think that is the call, and if that is the call, I think I should let the robot just hold it and see if it can run, because I don't see any reason why we couldn't go back to one. I mean, this would be a crazy scenario, but like from like a fundamental value, like who is going to fight it if we start selling and it goes all the way to 111, for instance, right? Because we've just kind of had like a slow float up. A lot of people didn't like that move up, so they might really try and push. Plus, it's a Friday, so maybe on a Friday people are gonna be more likely to give, like take profits and sell. Yes, I like the trade. I'm not going to touch it. I'm sitting here like, well, I should try even maybe if it's just a sim trade. Well, I could do it over here too. Like, I think that 4.266 seems okay to me if we really wanted to make this play. I don't know if it's the best spot because, I mean, it is like right at the lows and all that. So there's probably is a good chance that it kind of halts here and reverts back. Nick Timmerell's personal income fell spot 4% in May, and disposable personal income fell spot 5, largely reflecting a plunge in Social Security payments, which were boosted due to large retroactive payments earlier this year. Incomes from wages and salaries for private sector workforce rose spot 4. Okay, that's actually very, very interesting. So yeah, I'm not gonna mess with it. I'm gonna let the robot run its strategy. I don't think that the robot's exit are very good. So oh, you know what I should look into? It's the dig thing. Because they had an Android application, but there was some poll I had to have voted on that I hadn't voted on yet, so I missed it. Tried to make a small, fun rocket yesterday. You made a rocket yesterday? I failed at making the easiest type, and now I have a big container of data. So wait, does that mean that you were making the propellant yourself? Because that's a little scary. I've done model rockets, but they sell the engines to you. Sugar rocket fuel. I see. That's not quite as concerning. This is sugar rocket. Hey, that they pushed through. They didn't really have to push that hard either to get it down there. So robots up 5 ticks. Here's the S&P 500. First little bit of action does seem to be to the downside. The opening imbalances sound like they're all to the sell side. Oh no, actually, the S&P is buy side, 78 million. So. Yeah, S&P 500 plus 105 million, yep. Oh, no. I have 78. Well, it's changing. I guess it only goes for the first 10 minutes, but... Oh, what's this? Iceberg. Iceberg. That's a big one. Curious. You know what? So I might be making like a really weird thumb inference here. Okay, like I have a tendency to notice patterns. I'm pretty good at noticing the patterns. This is maybe part of why I'm able to realize faster than most, I guess, that the patterns don't really mean anything. But, you know, when there's a peculiarity, it definitely sticks out to me. And usually I'm just kind of like, I don't know if it really matters. But I'm wondering if in this case it actually does matter. I don't think I have ever seen a 10K iceberg on a Friday. That is a midweek thing. And usually, my first thought when I see a 10K is like, oh, is there an auction today? I would better go check, etc., etc. So how could I possibly explain what just happened there? Well, I do think that this move down was because of the salt tax thing. So let's start there. could be profit taking or just, hedging, etc., etc. It is pretty likely, I think, to kind of stop the action and cause us to start rotating around this 23.5-ish area. But there is that University of Michigan consumer sentiment number at the top of the hour. We have seen lately some decent moves off of that, even though everybody knows that the report is kind of nonsense now. So, like, if I thought that the sentiment number was going to be light again, which I think is a pretty good assumption, that the inflation expectations will continue to come back down to reality. By the way, the 1-year inflation expectation is 5.2 and the 5-year is 4.1. So they're expecting more inflation over the next 1 year than over the next 5 years. Go figure. I think that is going to underperform the forecast. So if you were making that bet, would it make sense to iceberg at 23.5? Maybe, but I'm kind of like, I kind of feel like with as much momentum south as we're getting, and if you know why it's going, why would you want to stand in front of that? You just let it do its thing, and, well, unless you really, really had to buy a ton. I don't know. But I think, and it's now been 50,000 contracts between those two prices too. So that's curious. I think that we got something going on, but normally I would be like, just kind of a little thing. A little bit went into 22.5, so that's a new low. So they did touch those new lows, but we're higher. I'm not seeing significant, well, maybe a little bit of an imbalance long. And it's kind of interesting. If we get back to where it enters, it's probably going to flip. Kind of looking back on the history of this today, it kind of looks like the lag is a little bit too much for it to make money. Andrew Cuomo reportedly staying in mayor's race? Really? According to reporting by CNN, Cuomo will remain on the November general election ballot and will not withdraw by Friday's deadline. Although Cuomo conceded the Democrat primary to Mamdani, he will retain his spot on the Fight and Deliver ballot line, keeping open the option to challenge Mamdani and Mayor Eric Adams running as an independent in the fall. When asked if he was worried about a redo, Mamdani said, "We did it once and it turned out pretty well." Cuomo. Oh, Cuomo. Yeah, you're right. I'm being lazy. Cuomo. It is really interesting to me how this one mayor race in a single day has just sucked all of the air out of the room. Like I am not really seeing people talk about anything else politically related other than that mayor race. And Cuomo sounds too much like Cuomo. Oh, okay. Cuomo. And the thing that's funny about it to me is that from what I've seen, Mamdani is basically a shoo-in at this point. So the reason that Mayor Adams, well, not the reason, Mayor Adams is running as an independent, but he was involved in a scandal. I don't know if it was like a big deal scandal, but it was a scandal. It hurt his popularity. He's not popular there anymore. Cuomo, well, he was the governor, right? Also involved in some corruption scandal. Wow, in a city of 8.3 million people, only about 1.1 million vote? Really? That's crazy. Well, so one of the things that I was reading from people, actually, let's ask ChatGPT about this, okay? Because people were saying that the mayor doesn't actually have the power to do a whole lot. One of the candidates in the New York City mayor race is promising state-run grocery stores. But I am seeing some people claim that the mayor doesn't have power to do that. What power or limits does the mayor in NYC have that would prevent him from enacting such policy? The guy in the Chicago promised the same thing and they never did it. That's right. Well, this has been an ongoing thing. So the grocery store thing in particular is one of those like flags that I'm immediately like, oh, really? Because one, it's a really, really bad idea. And like, why would that be your idea? Like, if you're a socialist or whatever, and you want to implement socialist programs in your city, why would you pick grocery stores? Because if you know anything about grocery stores, they're not running a huge margin. So there's really not a whole lot to improve there in a grocery store. The only way that you get anything out of it is if you lose money on it. And then what it is it's just being, then you're just taxpayer subsidizing food, right? So when I see that idea come out, that immediately says to me, this guy's talking to communists. That's what the communist and socialist parties of America, for some reason, they love that idea. I mean, it's something that the communists do. That's like one of their favorite things, okay, is the state-run grocery store. I want to see them do it personally. It would absolutely crush all those charming cat-filled bodegas New York City is famous for. 50 years in grocery margins at 1 to 2%. Yeah, it's like super, super tiny. So now, this is not the first time that there has been people in America pushing for this whole state-run grocery store idea. That's why I'm saying, like, this is not an idea that I think any person comes up on their own. I think that's kind of like the big red flag that this guy has been indoctrinated by socialists and communists, okay? And they have tried in different places in the country. I wish I had examples of all the different times that it's been tried and everything, but there were some cases where they wanted to set up state-run grocery stores, and like, they couldn't even get the store set up. Like, the local government wasn't competent enough to even get a single store, or like they could get one store up and running, and then it does so poorly and they give up on the idea. So there is definitely something to this. Even though he says he wants to do that, it's pretty unlikely that he would actually be able to implement it. Okay, the mayor of let's just have ChatGPT read it aloud.
New York City does not have unilateral authority to create state-run grocery stores, and here's why. 1. Jurisdiction. State-run versus city-run. State-run means operated by the New York State government, not the city. The mayor has no authority over state agencies or policies. A mayor can propose or advocate for state-run programs, but only the governor and state legislature can authorize and fund a state-run grocery chain. 2.
Okay, it's a city-run grocery chain.
What the mayor can do.
Come on, ChatGPT.
The NYC mayor does have power over city agencies like the NYC Economic Development Corporation, NYCEDC, the city's budget with city council approval, programs related to food security, health, business permits, and land use, via appointments to the City Planning Commission and zoning powers. The mayor could theoretically create city-funded grocery stores or subsidize nonprofit stores in food deserts, lease city-owned property for grocery development, use the EDC or housing authority to sponsor or manage food access projects. 3. What limits the mayor? City council approval is required for budgetary and legislative measures. State law preempts city authority in many areas, especially if a policy could conflict with state commercial, labor, or taxation laws. The mayor cannot mandate a statewide program, use state funds without state approval.
I made a big mistake calling it a state-funded
program without council and possibly state approval. 4. Is it politically feasible? Even a city-run grocery program would be controversial, require significant funding, and face pushback from private grocery chains and landlords, city council fiscal conservatives, and possibly state oversight bodies, depending on the mechanism used. Summary. The NYC mayor cannot create state-run grocery stores because they fall under state authority. The mayor can potentially create a city-run or publicly subsidized grocery initiative, but only with city council approval and limited by city budget constraints and state law. If you have the name of the candidate or want to look at their exact wording, I can help evaluate how realistic or misleading the proposal is.
The right freaking out about New York City falling to communism, and it's like, man, let them find their Karl Marx. We got our Hitler. We all wind up disappointed. So way to put it, good grief, dude. Well, but like that's the wild thing to me is that I really don't think this guy has a clue what's going on. I mean, anytime that we get these sorts of things, the question is always, does he know how ridiculous what he's proposing is? Or does he know that, but he knows people will vote for it anyways? Who knows? But everything that I've seen so far kind of suggests that this guy is just really, really naive. Coming up to the VWAP there at 27. Sad, the robot's gonna lose. I don't think I've ever seen a situation where our robot didn't at least get a few ticks favorable, right? It's just kind of a question of like, when do you take it off? When do you decide that that flow is done? I don't know. Well, as soon as you get an up bar, perhaps? Or as soon as you get 3 up bars in cumulative delta? I don't know. Actually, that would be an interesting test. I don't know if it would actually work backtest well, but to say, hey, you go short, and then if you get X bars positive, then you take it off. And that would probably get it out in this little zone right here. Okay, anyways. But one of the things I see going on right now that it's kind of weird that nobody's talking about this or doesn't see this. But I see a lot of discussion on Reddit in particular that's like, the Republicans are so scared of him. That must mean we're doing the right thing. Well, some people are scared that their country is falling to socialism. It's true. Okay, but the party leadership in the Republican Party is not scared of Mamdani. They're absolutely giddy about it. Whoever is the most extreme candidate on either side kind of becomes a pariah that the other party can run against. Mamdani is a drag on the entire National Democrat ticket. So even though he's probably a shoo-in in New York again, like Mayor Adams is not popular because there was a scandal. Cuomo, there was a scandal. And then the other guy that's running is Curtis Shua. I forget how you say his name. But Curtis is this long-time far-right radio host. Silwa, that's right. You're right. Curtis Silwa. That's why I was having a problem, because it starts with an S. His claim to fame is back in the 80s when they were saying crime has really gotten out of control in New York. They kind of started this vigilante thing where he created this club and they would wear red berets and they would go around and people knew when those red berets were around that they were safe. The guardian angels, yes. So that's a pretty far right thing if you kind of get the undertones of it. Okay, so I don't think that he's gonna win. I don't think that everybody's just gonna go, oh, let's rally around the Republican and the Republican wins. Seems unlikely to me. That's why they're kind of saying like, this guy it probably is going to be mayor now. Which is why, again, it's weird that there's so much talk about it when, like, we basically know what's going to happen now. Well, okay. But so the Republicans, they're going to just run against him. And there might be some races in other places where it's really, really close, but then people go, well, I'm not going to vote for socialists, and the Republicans win, right? That's why the Republicans are going to talk about it so much. And the media is going to talk about it just because, like, that's what people are interested in right now. And they'll probably continue to be interested in it until the vote happens. And then when he does become mayor, people are going to be really interested to hear every tiny little detail about what he's doing as mayor. And yeah, based on what we just read there, because the city council has to like provide the funding and all of these sorts of things, pretty good chance that the grocery store idea thing doesn't really happen. Pretty good chance that the $30 minimum wage doesn't actually happen, etc., right? But you ain't seen nobody saying that when they're talking about it on Reddit or wherever it is that you're reading about it, right? They all just play into it like it's the biggest deal ever. I do find it incredibly interesting. Mostly because then it's an opportunity to talk about different market sorts of things, right? Like one of the things that I was seeing this morning was that people were saying, well, maybe it is a dumb idea, but like we need to do something, right? Because clearly what we're doing right now doesn't work very well for some people. Well, okay, I would like to see some changes too. You got to realize that like these are complex systems, and large-scale disruption of a complex system usually does not result in better outcomes. In a complex system, you really have to understand the system and do some simulations and everything to see the impacts of it. Because small interactions at a micro level can result in large-scale emergent behavior that is extremely difficult to predict. So it's really the case that nobody is smart enough to be able to come in and say, well, this seems like a good idea, and then go in and implement it and it actually works out. No, you actually have to like do all of the science and stuff. So it provides an opportunity to talk about that. So I like that. I think that was just grandma coming in. Hold on a second. So anyways, well, I really want to know what the robot's going to do here, man. When did it get in? 7:20. So it's still got plenty of time. We'll see what the treasuries do next. Oh, I have to stick around for the consumer sentiment. We get good moves at 8 o'clock. Some of my best trades are actually off of the 8 o'clock news. Or 10 o'clock. Guess I could recenter up here. So we've spent a decent amount of time here. From r/trading, I've doubled my account 5 times and lost everything 5 times. Yes, because what you're actually doing is taking risk, and then it's just random. I don't know what to do. I have a solid strategy. Yeah, and you probably think that it's all, I don't know what needs to be fixed inside my head. Yeah, it's because the strategy isn't actually profitable, dude. Okay, well, we saw a little bit of movement there, but not too much. Well, okay. 5-year 4 versus 4.1 and 1-year 5 versus 5.2. So, and the sentiment actually 60 spot 7 versus an expected 60 spot 5. So, was less than expected, but not by much. And this report still seems kind of crazy to me. So, I guess we'll find out what the robot does. But for now, it's time for me to go. I will see you guys next week. In the meantime, stay excellent, team.